I'm going to click this thing with great expectations. And low or high. So here we are. I'm Abby Haggard, and you have joined me on yet another glorious adventure. In where are we now? So this morning when I thought, you know what, I'm just going to kind of have a quick look and see if anything's changed on this device that I'm using, this platform I'm using, and oh, apparently there's a new moon, a new phase of something. So as we delve into this event today, episode 285. Holy crap, doodle skids, that's a lot of videos that you have chosen to be part of. I'm over the moon. What I'm doing, what I'm trying to do, and I've just been talking back and forth with the man who has started mumbling to himself, the one who said, oh yeah, sure, I'll fix that for you. 3 days. I have him mumbling to himself. Fine, then I'll just make a flowchart. That should work. He's alone having that conversation. So what I want to talk about today is a thing we often have to do. And the reason I want to talk about it is because I run into it all the time. And I run into it all the time because I look at myself in the mirror and I'm seeing me do it. And then I turn around and you're doing it too. And I'm thinking, okay, one of us has to stop. Let's start with me and see if that works. And here's the thing we do. We resist change, especially when it's good for us. We resist it when we didn't think of it because, I mean, is it that important? Is it that necessary? It's going to cost a lot. I have to do that. And we don't want to do a lot of extra work, and we don't want to look stupid, and we don't want delays, and we don't want unnecessary surprises because there's enough of those without taking on something new. And so why we resist, though, when it's really good for us, falls into a whole other category. And that's what I want to talk about today. How can we possibly get over ourselves? How can we say, okay, well, if it wasn't so hard, I would try. Okay, if I can make it easier to try, then there are fewer excuses. Mind you, if you run short of excuses, you can contact me because I can come up with excuses, like blinking. So the conversation is this. I don't like the way things are going. I have taken a good, close, hard, difficult look at myself or the situation or the circumstance or what has devolved around me. And I have realized that I have to do something. And I don't want to. So while we have the inner child saying, what? Or maybe it's the inner child saying, we have to change. And it's the grown-up us saying, I don't want it. Could be that. I have been through so many of these. And the last two were special. And I think maybe the 3 or 4 before that. So I want to talk to you about how we can make it easier on ourselves to do the difficult things that really, at the end of the day, are going to be easier and simpler and safer and sometimes even more fun. So I'm going to start with a sip of coffee because I think all things should begin someplace warm and inviting. Excuse me. All right. It says, I can't post some messages. Oh, well. And then there's a private chat, which I'm not going to have. And then there's something else over here. And there's something else over here. So everything's good, even though it began differently. Okay. So wait a minute. No, that's not it. Okay, it doesn't say. Oh, I see. Did that sound unhinged? Did that look unhinged? It felt unhinged, so I'm just checking. Okay, this is not even me stalling. This is the universe saying, take a deep breath, Abby, take a breath. Okay. When we do a thing a number of times and it stops being painful and we start seeing progress, we take pride in it. We feel something about the decision we made. We feel something about the outcome. We feel something about our participation in it. And because it appears to have, seems to have, feels like it has worked for us, our very primitive survival mechanism says, great, if it ain't broke, why fix it? And the thing is that eventually, without maintenance, without double checking that there's air in the tires, all things break. All things need to be coddled and cuddled and fixed and oiled and tweaked and mentored, all things. So if we let it go, all that happens is a kind of a gradual or rapid downhill slide. When it comes to our attention, that's something that we have enjoyed, become good at, are known for, is no longer serving us, we have a very difficult decision to make. And it is made all the more difficult when we love the heck out of it. Well, good morning, Freddie. It's lovely to see you. When we are proud of what we do or did, when we just enjoy every single moment of it, it's very difficult to let it go. And no amount of logical, rational explanation has an ounce of power over the feelings we have. Because feelings trump thoughts, feelings override thoughts every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Why? Because feelings were first. Thoughts, words, sentences, they came late. They came late to the party. And the fact that we have a brain here and a brain here that can do a lot of the thinking functions doesn't mean that they have overtaken this massive other part of our brain that takes care of everything and has done very successfully since the dawn of time. We have to respect the fact that our feelings are well entrenched. All of our memories are filed away beside and within the emotion connected to them, for heaven's sake. So it's not likely that we're going to say, okay, I'm going to do it no matter how I feel. It's much more likely that we're going to say, I'm going to do it because it's necessary and because eventually, if it's good for me, I will get gooder at it and then I will value it the same way I value what I currently have. That is the only kind of thinking that actually works. It still doesn't eliminate the resistance. It still doesn't eliminate the reluctance. It still doesn't eliminate the sadness that we are letting go of something, that we are saying goodbye to something, that we are the ones ending something that we weren't done with. I'm going to tell you a fairly brief story about my career, because this is the big one that I can share with you, that you can understand. And I don't mean that you're not capable of understanding. Of course you are, but you can understand it deeply and almost immediately. I had a very, very wonderful streak of work. And by luck or by accident, or maybe a little bit of design and some talent on top and timing, my streak lasted longer than most and reached farther and wider than most. I mean, what people don't realize is that in the entertainment industry, less than 5% of people working full-time, card-carrying, professional, unionized entertainers, actors, providers, less than 5% make a living wage. Everybody other than that, 95%, have one or two jobs that subsidize this dream they have. So all of a sudden, from a standing start, I had a television show, and then I had another one, and then I had another one, and I had another one. I had all this other voice work, and I was doing all these other things. At one point, I was working 5 days a week. At one recording studio, they said, "We're thinking of getting you an office. You're here all the time." And then, as quickly as that beautiful wave of busyness appeared, it hit the beach, poof, and receded. And all that were left on the beach were a bunch of confused starfish and me. And it didn't matter what I tried to do. I mean, I wrote things, and I staged shows, and I ran around, and I got events organized, and I mentored people, and I started working on projects that had nothing to do with me, but I could advise on. I was so busy trying to keep my momentum going. And then two things happened, not immediately and not simultaneously, but two major things happened, not connected in any way, that basically took the stuffing out of me. And I said, okay, I guess I don't know how else to keep doing it. So one was the death of my mom. And that was overwhelming. It happened while I was working, and it was a very difficult thing to cope with, just emotionally. It was a very difficult thing to cope with strategically, because I couldn't allow my two worlds to collide publicly. I had to keep my private life, my personal life, completely separate, which meant a very, very complicated struggle that I couldn't talk about to anybody, because I had to keep it separate. And why I had to keep it separate was that the kind of work I was doing in the entertainment industry would not have been supported in any way with the knowledge of what had happened to my mother. So I had to choose how I paid my rent. There's no other choice. And shortly after that, as often happens in show business, it's not just me. I'm not saying, oh my God, I'm the only one. It's everybody. Everybody has dealt with things like this. Someone came along who decided that someone high profile like me, who smiles a lot and seems to be having a wonderful time, deserved to be taken down a peg. And this individual went out of their way to make it as public a spectacle as possible. And it was emotionally horrifying and financially ruining me. I lost everything. And I had to downsize. I had to declare bankruptcy. I had to rethink who I presented myself to be and how I did it. I had to find other work. And in that process of trying to find additional other work to compensate for everything I lost, I made this horrifying discovery. And the discovery was that I had so successfully branded myself as this particular kind of person that absolutely no one believed that I would, A, be able to do any other kind of work, or B, be satisfied with it. And it was a monumental struggle to find a way to make a living. When I eventually came across something, it was in sales, and sales, as you know, it's like this. And then, fortunately, an idea came along. And I'm not sure how it exactly appeared on my horizon, but I realized that there was another way I could do what I do. I could actually keep being creative. I could keep writing the stories and promoting these navigational life curves anonymously. I did. I joined an agency, a writer's agency, and I basically broke my own heart. I broke up with show business, and I had never in a million years thought I would. I couldn't. Before that time, I could not visualize ever, because it was such a perfect fit, and so challenging and so exciting and fun and difficult sometimes and lovely. And I had to quit, and there was no easy way. And I was having a conversation a few years after that with my wonderful friend Billy, who said, "Have you forgiven yourself yet?" Because I really had a tough time. I was really angry with me that I had abandoned myself and my career and the thing that I loved and the thing that had sustained me in what felt to me like just a rough patch. But I could not. I said, I don't know. I guess. And he said, well, let's give it a try. You need to come back to Ottawa. We need to start inserting you back into the public at various places so that you can decide if you're ready to come back and figure out how to restart, reset, redo this with all of this knowledge and experience behind you. We have to start, because you can't just walk away. There's too many people who are going to be excited to find you alive and well and doing fine. And that was the beginning of making the decision to give it a fresh start. And the thing is that I had been away for almost 20 years. Almost 20 years. Well, 10 when Billy and I first had the conversation, and then I've dragged it out. Stalling. I've dragged it out because not sure, not knowing how. And the thing is that he was right. God bless him. And he's so funny. He says, every time we disagree on something, it takes you 3 months and then you realize it's not just annoying that he's right so often. Although that plays a big role in it. So what I wanted to talk about in this episode today was how heavily we rely on our ego to guide our decisions when we want to do things because they feel good, because we like them, because they are our favorite, even though we know deep in here that it's not going to work. But we hang on. We hang on with everything we've got. We resist change like doing taxes. We don't like it. It makes us look fat. It's depressing, and we have to start over. And which part of that was good for us? We say, sounding like we're 5 years old. I don't want it. So when I had to make that tough decision to walk away, exactly, Freddie. It is an ego. It is an ego journey for sure. It is the ego saying, but I deserve. And it is the rest of us saying, yeah, but you don't deserve to come first. You're not the only one in the conversation. You're the only one in the conversation with yourself, but you're not the only one in the conversation. And this is important if we're going to live in a world that is made up of many choices and many options and many priorities. This is the hard stuff. This is the delayed gratification thing. So what I did when I walked away was I placed myself firmly in this slightly different, it's still the entertainment industry, it was still communications, it was still creative work. It just wasn't mine. Although it was mine because I was the one doing it, but I was anonymous. I was doing it for other people. And I was paid as a writer for hire for my services. So, and I didn't resent any of that. It was a great challenge. It was fascinating. The people I met and the things I learned, really, really interesting. And hang on a second. What that experience gave me almost immediately and every time, every day, was an opportunity to add to my skill set. I once wrote with and for a real estate professional a book on um, called on fractional ownership. Now, people who invest in timeshares know what I'm talking about. I struggled with fractions in school, so anything with fractional in it made me, a little nervous. And by the time I'd finished working on this book for him, I it was fascinating because I'd had to, step out of my world and into his for a couple of months while we worked through it. I got an opportunity to work with a dentist who had a really brilliant business idea, and um, I've always felt that it is something that people miss a lot. And I said, can I adapt this to my work? And he said, with my blessing, you've helped me a lot to make it more appealing, make it more interesting. So that was something that was not only did I get to learn something, I got paid to learn it. And then I got paid to write it down so that I could, really retain it and put a spin on it. So every single project, and there's almost 80 of them that went to some kind of professional publication, not through me. In total, there's over 80 of them. And the ones that I actually became the ship's captain on, that began around the time I decided to try coming back, and that was I started a publishing entity, a boutique publishing service that I called AH Publisher, and my concept was I'm certainly not Random House, and I'm not going to be Penguin, and in fact, nobody is anymore. What I can do is I can take a first-time author by the hand, and I can walk them through their learning curve and help them at the hairpin turns. I can give them a very personal understanding of the creative process and why certain steps must be followed. I mean, there's for every person who reads a book, there is a different way to write and publish it. However, within that statement, because there's no right and wrong way, within that statement, it has to be something readable. It has to be, if you want people to buy it, it has to be something that piques curiosity and invites interest. And then when people actually pick it up and read it, they take away something of value. Those three elements have to be there. If you can't spell and the thing looks messy, all that you've ended up doing is putting a wall between you and the reader who really wanted to know what you had to say. So in that context, getting it tidy and neat and easy to digest is also an essential component. So after all those books, all those projects, I had become pretty skilled at it. And so it has been a very consuming time because a lot of the people who need to have a book and want to have a book also have some aspect of their lives that will be changed because they have now written a book. Some of these people are business executives, some of them are business owners, some of them are family people, some of them are retired public figures. And so anything they put out in the public domain must reflect who they are in a way that they want the public to see. So it's not only getting it right, it's also getting it to assist and support and elevate you. Usually when I in the early days when I talked to wannabe writers, first time authors, when Oprah Winfrey had her show, and I would say at the end of the day, when the book is published and you have it in your hand, what do you want it to do for you? And almost without exception, he said, I want to be on Oprah. Okay, so and what would Plan B be? Because there's only so many, and but they have this vision, somehow Oprah's people will discover her and she'll go on the show and her life will be changed. Okay, that's an interesting thing to do, and it's not unreasonable, except that it takes all the power and all the control and all the original inspiration away from you, and it puts it in someone else's hands, someone bigger than you, someone out there. And that's not what the book was meant to do. The book was not meant to take away your power. It was meant to elevate your power, elevate your voice. So In the doing of all of those things, I gained a certain versatility, and I gained a measure of confidence, enough confidence to choose to come back, enough confidence to forgive myself for being annoyed with me, enough confidence to see what it looks like this time coming back. And that began in 2012. And since 2012, and here we are, 2024, I have been doing new projects and creating new opportunities. And we had a bit of a downtime during COVID, and they've all kind of followed a pattern. And that is that people are struggling with something. And first of all, I distract them by making them feel good about themselves. And then I give them really helpful tools that they can adapt to use in their specific situation. And then I help them take their next steps. And that's really what I do. And the feel good part are the shows that I do, the live shows, and the training and the interactive stuff. Those are the talks, kind of like TED. If TED actually, if a TED talk was meant to have audience interaction, those are the kinds of talks I do. And then the training and the focusing is dependent on what it is that you need and what your path is. You know, if it's a relationship issue, if it's a creative issue, if it's a business issue, we just tailor it to whatever it is that you need, because everything starts with us, right? It doesn't matter whether it's a relationship personally or romantically or professionally or creatively. It's all a relationship. And we have to figure out how to accept the responsibility that we have to keep changing, keep refreshing, to keep it new and exciting and dynamic and growing. So, long backstory, but now you see from whence I'm coming and why I feel that I have enough experience in the letdown and the anguish at making a hard decision that was good for me, that I can talk to you with knowledge and understanding about the arc that we have to travel. So here's the thing. There are 3 ways. I'm going to talk about the hardest one last. Okay. So one of my all-time favorite diet books was written by a doctor who said, it is easier to change your eating habits gradually than all at once. It's easier on your budget. It's easier on your, I don't have time to figure out how to make this new thing. It's easier on your unthinking habit. You just automatically open the fridge and pick the thing. And you do the same when you go to the grocery store. You just pick the thing. It's easier to gradually ease your way in to the change by doing this. You take a piece of paper, take a blank piece of paper, and take a weapon of construction, okay? And you make 3 columns. And at the top of one column, I'm doing it, you put the word frequent. And in the middle, you put occasional. And on the other column, you put seldom. Frequent, occasional, seldom. And at the beginning of your decision to change, to quit a thing you like, you say, and oh, by the way, and I think we all know this, it takes 30 days to change a habit. 30 days. So give yourself a month. Nothing is going to change like that. Not really change. But over 30 days, repeated over time, yes. So every day you look at the thing that you know is not healthy for you anymore. Every day when you wake up. You're going to do it every night when you go to sleep as well. You're going to look at this thing that you know you have to take control of and change. You like it and you don't want to, so there. Okay. So currently, it's in the frequent column. Currently, it's in the frequent column. Good morning. I'm in the frequent column. And you look at it. Are you willing to put it in the occasional column today? today. This morning, are you willing to do it today? Yes? Okay. Then write down the time and put it in the occasional column. If you're even more brave, if you're determined, you woke up and you said, all right, this is it. I'm drawing a line in the sand. Seldom. There is no, you notice there's no never. There's no never. This is a gradual 30-day thing. If you wake up full of, okay. Are you willing to put it in the seldom column today, this morning, now? Yes? Okay. Put it there. Move it from frequent to seldom. What does seldom mean? What does frequent mean? It means whenever you feel like it. If let's say you decided you're going to quit smoking. Let's say you decided that you're going to stop, I don't know, yelling at the kids. Let's say you decided that you're going to stop your road rage stuff. Okay. What does frequent mean? All the time? Okay. What does occasional mean? How do we get to occasional? Count to 10. Count to 10 and decide that you still need it. That's how we get to occasional. Count to 10. Okay, I can do that. I'll put it in the occasional column, and every time I reach for it or I think of it or I do it, before that I have to count to 10. I make a pact with myself I can count to 10. Okay. I don't want to. I know. Believe me, I know. However, it's good for you and you're giving it your best shot. So you will count to 10. Fine. In the occasional column, put the word 10 and then write the thing underneath it. Okay. If you've decided to go, all right, count to 10 and then write the seldom thing underneath it. It's still count to 10. I don't care how you count to 10. You can count to 10 using the 30-second 5-finger breathing exercise. You know that thing that I've taught you? This is a pattern interrupt. You just focus on doing this with one hand and then you do the other hand. It's actually very soothing. And it feels quite lovely, really. And when you get back to the other side, there you go. That's your count to 10. Okay? Before you do. That's one way. So every day, every morning and every night, at night, you look at the page. Did I count to 10? Did I achieve occasional? Did I achieve seldom? At the bottom of the page, write down what you achieved. You can put a check mark if you achieved. You can put a heart if you achieved. You can put a shooting star if you achieved. And if you didn't, you know what? It's okay. It's only the first day. You'll come back tomorrow. You can give yourself permission to start fresh tomorrow. Okay? And you're going to do that for 30 days. And what happens, because it's not a big thing after a while, and every day that you do it, what becomes easier is understanding that this is something you can actually manage. It's something you can actually own. It's something that you know, the smart part of your brain says, I know this is good for me. And the emotional part says, I like the other. I don't think it's that bad. I know this is good for me though. And you know what, at the end of the month, if you decide that the people who told you that this was good for you were out of their minds, you can go back. It's your life. You can do what you feel is the right thing. Always. No matter what anybody says to you. However, what the count to 10 and category decision does is it gives you a tangible benchmark. And I'm going to explain to you right now why the tangible benchmark helps. Okay. I had a very, very emotional exchange with a really sweet, great friend of mine whom I haven't spoken with in a long time. And I discovered that he had just lost somebody. very special. And it was hard. Of course it was hard. And I said to him, I want you to do something for you, for me and for you. Do it for me because you care and you want me to be happy. And I'm asking you to do it for you so that you care about you and you help yourself go through this. I want you to get a notebook. He said, I have nothing to say. And I said, I know. It's not about saying. I want you to get a notebook and I want you to get some kind of an implement, a pen, a pencil, whatever it is. And not online. This has to be tangible in your hand. And all I want you to do is doodle. That's all I want you to do. You don't have to think about anything. I just want you to have the notebook with you all the time. And anytime you're not actively doing things like, I don't know, driving, something that requires most of your compensation. I want you to doodle, draw things, plan nothing, maybe write words if they come to you, but where you are is a highly emotional place and words don't live there. And even when they try to live there, they're inadequate to the size of the feelings. So just doodle. And he said, oh. And I said, I know. And I said, and I'm going to tell you why you just said, oh, in that way. What we must do in order to own change, what we must do in order to feel the way change is supposed to make us feel, which is excited and purposeful and focused, is we have to get it out of our heads. We have to get it out of our hearts. We have to get it out of floating around in the middle of nowhere. We have to get it out of there, over there, someplace where we can look at it, where we can see it, where we can take the pen, put it down, pat the notebook, like the later folder. This is, in fact, just another version of the later folder, obviously. And take our hand away and just sit and look at the doodling that we've done and recognize that the part of this impossible moment that we have been able to own is moving it from the place of fear to a place of safety. And in the absence of the fear is the sense that we are okay. I know that when we grieve and when something terrible happens, we almost don't want to feel okay because it somehow, it seems like a betrayal of some kind. If they're in trouble, we should be equally helpless, except that that's not how it works. It's not how it works. That they are in trouble means that we have this beautiful, incredible opportunity to bring our best self to the situation, to make it bearable, not just for ourselves, but for everyone within our tight circle. And we can only do that when we get all of this swirling stuff out of here and out of here and over there, where we can look at it. And when we get up and go away and come back and we look at what we doodled and we think, I don't feel that way, quite that way now. Good, then sit down and pick up the pen and do some more doodling. Watch your mindset gradually shift. Watch the way you feel about the hopelessness and the helplessness. Watch how that evolves. That is what taking it out of your head and putting it onto the page does. It gives you ownership in a way that makes you feel confident that you can do this, whatever this might be. So the first possible option in how to quit a thing we still like and love and care about and want to keep is shifting our unconscious habit of just doing it and removing the all or nothing that causes us to give up. Phase 1 is gradual. Phase 1 is creating a pattern that we can learn to follow. Frequent, occasional, seldom gives us the power to choose how quickly, how slowly, the size and number of our measured steps we take to get from where we are to where we know we really should be. And there are no absolutes. At the end of the day, when we look at what we did and we count to 10 before we go to bed and give ourselves permission to fall asleep, is that we have more days to try again. That's the first and the easiest way to quit something that we like. Okay. The second one is a little more powerful. And what we do is we ask ourselves, is there something I like almost as much? Is there something that, say we go to the store to pick up that favorite treat and they're out of it? They just don't have any. And we're grumpy and confused and pouty. What would we normally pick as a plan B? What would we say? Okay, well, you know what? And I don't mean you say, I guess this is the universe's way of telling me I need to do this instead. No. What is the thing that we like almost as much? We all have something. When I made my decision that I had to walk away from the market where I had oversaturated myself, that I had become typecast as something. No, if I was on television a lot, nobody wanted me working as a secretary or being a chauffeur or a bartender, because the people coming in felt awkward having me serve them because they felt that I was a celebrity and all I was somebody who had to pay the rent. So there were so many things that I was qualified to do that I simply couldn't get. I couldn't get anybody to overlook this other thing that I had been so good at. You know what? Why don't you do another one of your shows? Gosh, I love your shows. Yeah, I'd love to do another one of those shows, except that I don't have the resources to do them. So in the meantime, and it just, I ran out of the time, and I ran out of the resources and the energy to try. And so when I found the writing, when I found this opportunity, I wasn't completely doing a 180 and walking away. I was shifting platforms. I was able to say goodbye to one way of doing things because I know a secret. And this secret, which I'm going to share with you in a couple of seconds, is the key to Plan B. Plan A is frequent, occasional, seldom, and gradually weaning us off and rewarding us and giving us the count to 10 time before we do things, giving ourselves borders and tangible steps and writing things down and getting them out of our head and onto the page. That's the one. Frequent, occasional, seldom. This one is called transfer. And the reason it's called transfer is because every skill we have ultimately is transferable. Every skill. I think I've had this conversation on a video before. You were a blacksmith and you made those horses for shoes, and now people drive cars, so you're out of work. Exactly, Freddie. Say goodbye to the old and hello to the new. Let's say, oh, look, old, new reminds me of you. That's transferable, right? So what does the blacksmith do? Well, if he wants to remain being a blacksmith, he can make metal iron railings for decorative buildings and window ledges and sidewalks and all manner of things that require somebody who can use that anvil and use that strike and use that fire and use that, all those tools. he can transfer his skill to another platform. Does he have to gear up and rethink and market himself differently? Yes. Is it a challenge? Yes. Did I have to go through that? Yes. When I got on that agency site, and everything was virtual. My clients were all over the world because they just joined the agency. I had to prove myself to people before people said, "Oh yes, you need to hire her. She's great." I had to do samples of things. I had to apply for a lot of jobs that didn't come through. It took almost 2 months before I got a job, before I got somebody who was willing to hire me. And how I managed to fast track that recognition curve was that I offered to do samples. I would say, if you send me 2 pages of what you're thinking about, what you're working on, what you have already got, then I will write 2 subsequent pages. And that will give you an opportunity to see if I understand you, if I can mimic, if I can model myself in your style, in your phrasing, in your path adequately, so that it doesn't look like you hired somebody to write for you. You've basically just got someone who is shaping your content in step with you. And that was what finally worked. I was willing to transfer my ability to profile my audience, read the way they respond to things, except that when I did it for shows, it was live in real time and I was watching them. And in the writing arena, I was seeing what they wrote. They would email me. We would have conversations on the phone, and I would get a sense of their personality and whether they had a sense of humor, and if they were linear or abstract or inventive or, narrow focus. I could get a sense of that, profile them, and then gradually get myself in step with them. When they felt safe with me, handing me the reins, I got the job. When I delivered my segments on time, it's like showing up on time for a show, being ready, remembering that it's the audience who is the most important person in the room. My client is the most important person temporarily. However, the other important person is the potential reader for this. So I had to help my clients understand that the book wasn't for their reading. It was for their buyer's reading. And that I had to help them get their ego out of the way in order that the information was going to be helpful to other people, not just for the person who I've written a book. It was a fascinating experience in understanding people in a completely different way. It was not totally different. It was not, okay, I've been understanding people and communicating with them, and now I'm going to drive a bus. It was understanding and communicating, just with a different set of tools. It wasn't me in the spotlight. It was their content, and ultimately them when their name was on the book. And having done that for 20 years, about the same amount of time that I was performing in front of people, I now had 2 ways of helping people understand their path. And all these sort of things that go along in my personal life at the time, coexistent with all of that, gave me the ability to talk to people and help them see the things they're doing and the things they're saying and the things they're seeing and feeling in a way that helps them feel confident, helps them get their sense of self back when terrible things happen. Truly coaching life skills as opposed to a life coach. Truly coaching connection, engagement, communication, self-awareness skills in real time with real people struggling to do better and be better, even when they don't want to. That has evolved out of all of this. What on earth is this, and how do I do it? My learning curve is paving yours for you. My holy, that's a cliff. Turn here, don't turn there. Oh no, the other left. What I'm going through allows you to see what you're about to go through. I can't stop you from choosing it, but I can allow you to see it more clearly before you say. So, effort number 2 is substitution. Substitution in a way that is not, I'll just do this till the other one comes back. Substitution is how we transfer our loyalty, transfer our joy, transfer our commitment in order to be able to continue to move forward in a world that has changed. What we were able to do easily at 20 is not the same thing we were able to do easily at 10, at 30, at 40. Every significant turn of the wheel of time gives us a different perspective and a different set of skills and a different set of tools and different sets of resistance to things that could in some way be unhelpful to us. Time changes. We change with time. If we don't like the change that is asked of us, first of all, we can go into it gradually, frequent, occasional, seldom. Secondly, we can say, I'm going to practice transferring. I'm going to say that instead of buying the cream-filled, sugar-topped pastry, I'm going to buy the pastry without the cream. I'm going to buy the donut without the icing. I'll have it with the sugar. I'm going to buy the bread that is a healthier seed than the highly processed bread. Occasionally, seldom, frequently. I'm going to transfer my loyalty to something similar so that I can still have the hit, still have the fix, but I can choose the alternate. It's not because they ran out of it in the store. It's because I choose the alternate, and I can do it frequently, and I can do it occasionally, and I can do it seldom. And as long as I count to 10 before I make the impulse buy, as long as I count to 10 before I just sleepwalk over to the fridge, open it, and eat the ice cream directly out of the tub, as long as I give myself permission to recognize that I'm doing it, I am the one driving the change. I am the one choosing the increments that allow me to grow without feeling like I abandoned myself, that I failed me in some way. And if I do this every day for a month, every day incrementally, the size of my feeling an accomplishment taking place begins to rise. When I look back at the pages that I write every day, frequent, occasional, seldom, and what I transferred, and did I count to 10 first? And how did I feel at the end of the day? And did I congratulate myself on a battle won? Every day, then we're winning. Then we are taking ownership, not only of what we enjoy, but also what we're willing to enjoy. As we change, we can enjoy other things. And the third way that is very brave, and I've seen people do it, and I have no idea how, is that they wake up and say, 100% starting today, I'm done. And this is part of that whole pivot, tree, and motion thing. We wake up one morning or something hits us. We walk out the door, we look at the day and we say, nope, I'm done. And that takes place somewhere in the back. And the crazy thing is, when I talk to all the people that I've worked with over the years about this phenomenon, if we had had the conversation at 2 o'clock on Tuesday, and they would say, I know it's not good for me. I don't care. It's my thing. And then I have a conversation with them at 2 o'clock on Friday, and something flipped in their head. And I say, so how's the struggle going? Oh, no struggle at all. I quit. What? Yeah, I quit. I don't know. I woke up and I said, what the hell am I doing? How's it going? It's great. It's great. Should have done it sooner. Now, what happens in that case is that some emotional part of us, way in the back, has said no. And when that emotional part of us says no, there's no big kerfuffle. There's no big sobbing and broken screaming and kicking the heels on the floor. And the reason is because we are ready. We achieved readiness. We, as I say all the time in Pivotary Conversations, it's not that bad, it's not that bad, it's not that bad. It is that bad, it's not good enough. That is the circle, that is the evolution that goes on in the back of our head. One moment we're fine with it, and the next moment we're not. I have a friend who had most of his teenage years and adult life had been a smoker. And one day he said, I'm never going to smoke a cigarette in a year that has a 2 in it. That was his benchmark. That's what he wrote down. That's how he took it out of his head. That was so he could see that line in his sand. That was what he talked to himself about every day. And he made that decision between Christmas and New Year's in 1999. And he said, how I'm going to police myself is all I have to do. Every time I crave a cigarette, I'm going to say, is there a 2 in this year? Then I can't have a cigarette today. Maybe tomorrow. And he still went through the process of frequent, occasional, seldom. He didn't use a notebook. He didn't write it down. He didn't transfer it to something else. He didn't say, okay, so instead of cigarettes, I'll chew gum or I'll eat candy or I'll gain 50 pounds because I have chocolate every day. He didn't do that. He simply said, I'm not having a cigarette if the year has a 2 in it. Same thing saying, I'm not having a cigarette if the day of the week has a Y in it. Right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So what he gave himself was a silly, lighthearted line in the sand. But it was tangible enough that it held him accountable. And when people would say, well, why are you quitting? What are you doing? Oh, I'm just not having a cigarette in any year that has a 2 in it. Yeah, but it's 2000. Yeah, it's 2004. There's always a 2 in it. I know. Keeps me honest. Keeps me holding my promise to myself. It doesn't matter what the thing is. When someone has told us, someone we respect has told us that it is not helpful to us in some way to continue doing something the way we're doing it, we have choices. We can listen to them. We can disagree with them, choose not to listen to them, forge ahead. Those are the choices. And we have all kinds of ways to implement the decision we make. All kinds of ways. If we just choose to ignore them, then we'll just keep doing what we do. And occasionally we'll have an argument about it, and then we'll roll with it, and then we'll continue going whatever we were doing. Because we don't believe it, and even if we do believe it, we don't want to believe it. We're going to stay where we are. We're going to put our fingers in our ears. We're going to go la, 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 until people go away. And we, in that moment, because it's so emotional, we don't care that it could be harming us. because the ego is saying, no, 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 do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. What if it hurts me? It won't hurt. Are you kidding? It's us. We should be able to do whatever we want. We can do whatever we want. The question is, are we willing to do what is good for us, that works for us, that makes a difference for us as opposed to against us? Are we willing to try? Because what I've introduced today are 3 of the easiest ways to implement a change we didn't invite, we wish hadn't come, and now we must do something if we want to win. I won. It was very hard. It was very painful. It was exhausting. It was upsetting. And then it wasn't that bad. And then I missed what I used to do. However, I was doing some exciting things that I would never have had a chance to do if I hadn't walked away. All kinds of doors opened for me. I wrote screenplays for people. I changed people's career paths with them, helping them come up with a brand and a message and a direction that was exciting and different and inspiring. I wouldn't have had a chance to do that. I wouldn't have had a chance to be part of that. And because I learned all those skills, when I started to come back to Ottawa, I was able to help people there who did know who I was, but forgave the fact that I had done that because I had been gone so long. And what have you been doing all this time? And I would tell them, and they'd get so excited about this new thing because as it happened, they needed that service and they already trusted me because of the other work I used to do. I had to pay my dues in order to make a triumphant return. And I am proof that it works, aren't I? I'm right here in living color. So I want to leave that with you today. It's gone a little bit long, a little tiny bit long. I'm sorry, kind of sorry. I want you to give yourselves permission to look more kindly on the thing that is saying, and say, maybe it wouldn't be that bad if I'm in charge. Because quite often when we feel that we're being forced to make a change, we feel like someone else has become the boss of us, and we don't like that. We never did. And it's not true. We are always the boss of us. We just sometimes need to take directions and look at the map to make sure we're still on course. And if we are off course, it's okay to get help to find our way back. I'm right here. And I will be here on Thursday, in 2 days. And I hope you will come back, and I hope you will tell your friends that this one was interesting, and this one has made you think, well, maybe I have to give this a try. And I hope I will hear from you and let me know how it's going. All right? So, as always, this is the drill. Be good to you. I am so grateful for you. There are no words from the word girl. You deserve it. And remember to hug your loved ones. They deserve it too. And